Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is the last of the 4 requests from my friend Efree. Dan, I hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope. I'll put it that way. But thank you for your patience for this. I do appreciate it. If anyone wants to request any other type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thought streams, commentaries, tier lists, rankings, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below in the info box and I will get to it. It could be a commentary, tier list, ranking, reaction, random movie topic, a live stream, whatever the case may be. And I'll get to it as soon as I can. So what he wanted me to do, which this was interesting, was to review, which is nice because I finally got around to watching this thanks to him. Came out last year, so it was the 35th anniversary Blu-ray and 4K of Kickboxer. That we got here. So first off, this was, I believe, an Amazon exclusive. I don't even know if you can get this anymore on Amazon. I don't know. I mean, well, I guess I could check right now, just out of curiosity. Kickboxer 4K. I'll just type that in. Why not? Doesn't... No, I clicked Blu-ray and it's the older one. No, it doesn't look like it. So, I guess it's gone. Maybe... Yeah. Save with used light new $32. Which I believe it's it. It says save with used light new. So it's... Or maybe you can find it on eBay if you wish to. But I'm a fan of the movie. It's a great Van Damme classic. And saw it on VHS way back in the day. And before we get to, a little bit about the film, Van Damme had done films like No Retreat, No Surrender and Black Eagle, but Bloodsport is what brought him into Supernatural. Yes, Supernatural, yeah. He died and he came back and is a ghost. To superstardom is what I meant to say. Although, he was... The way he fought, it was like a supernatural creature. It was fucking crazy. It was fucking insane. Those splits, only someone supernatural could do fucking splits like that. No man alive could do that. You had to be fucking dead to be able to be split and not have your nuts fit to feel like a goddamn vice was being gripped by the Incredible Hulk, ready to fuck his dream cock in your ass. Obviously. Anyway, Superstar in Bloodsport definitely catapulted him. And this one kind of made sure that he wasn't a one-trick pony. Some may say No Retreat, No Surrender, but as a star, Bloodsport and then this one really cemented, okay, this guy, he's a new action star. While for the most part his films weren't making as much as Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, he still, for the low budgets they had, they made a good profit, especially internationally. And then Cyborg, which cost, what, $1 million, if that? Maybe even less, actually. Made a big profit. Then you had Lionheart, Double Impact, and then bigger hits like Universal Soldier, Hard Target, and Time Cop. So, it definitely, for a while, worked out for him. But this one I always loved. I always thought it was kind of his version of Rocky. In fact, if you think about it, kind of like Rocky 4. Where this big, intimidating guy who says very, very little and who seems very powerful, whether it be Ivan Drago with the punches and what he can do, here Tom Poe with the knees to the pillar. And then we see our heroes training in these very seemingly ancient methods or antiquated methods, not what... be able to train and get better and stronger, and this is because this bad guy did something to someone they loved. In Rocky 4, killed his brother from another mother, Apollo. Here, paralyzed his actual brother, Eric. And Kurt Sloan wants revenge for that. Then, of course, you have the big fight at the end. So, again, kind of his Rocky type of movie. The fight scenes, which, I mean, there's not as many because it's Dennis Alexio having the fight at the beginning. Briefly, quickly show what he can do. The fight that he has with Tompo where he gets paralyzed and fucked up. There's exhibition fight that Van Damme has where he defeats a guy, and then the fight at the end. So it's pretty much 4 fights. 2 of them involving Van Damme. But it's more about the journey, the training, the bond he has with like Dennis Chan. Great music by the same guy who did the music for Bloodsport. The training scenes are still memorable. Van Damme training underwater. Him kicking the pots, how he's able to stretch his legs. Him and Dennis Chan, and it's like nighttime, the end of daytime, and dodging the heated spears, whatever. Which, for I understand, those were actually just light bulb. Like, what was it? The actual term? Plexiglass. You put like a light bulb in it. You know, which makes sense for safety reasons. And you have nice backdrops of Thailand or some of these, like the Stone City where he trains for a bit. The fight at the end is great. I mean, you got glass, you know, on your knuckles, and Van Damme's like, I don't need that shit. And beat the fuck out of Tompo. I want Tompo! Natsuka! Even ends with a Stan Bush song, goddammit. Never surrender, never say no. It is Stan Bush, isn't it? No, wait. I gotta make sure. What is? Now I'm second guessing myself. Who's saying never surrender? And Kickboxer. Yeah, it's Stan Bush. Okay. I don't know why I second guessed myself, but I did. But there you go. Why Stan Bush? Was it Stan Bush? Yeah, it's Stan Bush. God. Again, me and names. Just losing it. I'm losing it. But great film. Classic. Love Kickboxer. But get into the 4K Blu-ray. First off, you have the slipcover, which this is nice. This is why I keep this. You know me, I'm not big on slipcovers. I don't usually tear. But this is cool, because you got Van Damme kicked in the thing, lenticular. Thought that's kind of cool. If you go this way, without the glare. Wow. You know, that's kind of cool. Nice pictures on the back there. Got our main characters there. And then, I thought this looks really cool. I love the red, the blood red on this. It's very eye-catching. Van Damme in the stands, got Tompo in the back. There's a very cool looking steelbook. I love the red. The red is very striking. And look at that, that's a great pose. The tit, the blood spraying out of the mouth. That's great artwork, actually. That is great artwork. I love that. That is really cool. So you got that and the stands. Like, again, I love the striking red. It just really stands out compared to others. And then you have the inside, which does have artwork. There's Tom Poe there. And then this is disc 3, the international cut, which I'll talk about that later. In the video, that is. And then you have, let me show, of course, Van Damme on the other side there. Then you have the disc 1, which is the 4K. Tom Poe licking the glass. Which is not, I don't think it was in the international cut, which I'll get to. That's why, one of the reasons why, I'll get to that later. Getting ahead of myself. And then disc 2, which is the film on Blu-ray. Now, I did not realize Michael Felcher had a hand in producing it. I did. He did mention it a long time ago. Michael Felcher is a guy who is friends with the guys at Dead Pit, who I'm friends with. CT and Uncle Bill. CT and Uncle Bill, great guys. Michael Felcher, good producer. He did the release on Trick or Treat, the '80s film, which I have. I still haven't looked at the features yet because the requests come first. Those, I'll get to whatever. I guess unless someone requests the stuff, but so I'm glad it's not one of those where you got to slip it in like some collections are. So I mean, the presentation, the way it's here, manageable. They're easy to get out. There's not a lot of issues with that. All played well for me. I'm not good at noticing issues in audio and video quality. But I didn't notice any issues. First off, the 4K version of the film, it looked good to me. I think it's the best the film has looked. Now, I don't know if people will see and go, wow, that looks amazing. But to me, compared to the DVD and other releases, I do think that if you want the best way the film has looked, it would be this. I had really not a lot of issues with the way the film looked. So I did. Being a fan of the film, it was nice to see in that presentation. The features, you have 2 audio commentaries. Mark DeSalle, because technically this film had 2 directors, Mark DeSalle and David Worth. Now, if we understand, Bloodsport was a big hit. Mark DeSalle was part of that movie. I believe David Worth was the DP of that movie, Bloodsport. When this film came about, I'm guessing David Worth said, hey, I was the DP, I want to be director. Mark DeSalle's like, okay, fine, you be a director. But I'm guessing Mark DeSalle wasn't sure that David Worth could do it. Or maybe he made that agreement and that handshake, whatever, before Bloodsport came out, and then they realized, holy shit, this was a big fucking hit. This guy's like a new cash cow. I can't have this second film screw up. So then Mark DeSalle, eventually they became co-directors. It seems like Mark DeSalle didn't trust David Worth, and David Worth is like, hey, you told me to direct, why are you co-directing? Because the director of photography in the interview, John Cranhouse, says, hey, I'm directing also, but don't tell David Worth. So if you tell your DP, I'm directing this film as well, but don't tell David, there's a bit fucking there's a bit something shenanigans going on. But they didn't really delve into in these commentary tracks, or as far as I listened to them, because okay, Mark DeSalle and this guy Mike Leader. Which my leader, his audio kind of sounded like he was underwater. So I'm guessing Mark DeSalle was there, and then Mike Leader, I guess maybe he lives overseas, so it's maybe Skype or something, or some other way. But I would say this was the better of the 2 commentaries because there wasn't a lot of dead spots. Mike Leader does seem like a bona fide gun-ho fan. I'd rather you kind of say that he talks sometimes a bit more than the director. And you get kind of I don't know, in the back of my head sometimes I almost picture Mark DeSalle going, what's up with this fucking guy? But if you have to listen to one commentary, that's the one to listen to. Because Mark DeSalle is still fairly chatty throughout it. For example, it was interesting to hear that when the brother, Dennis Alexio, Eric fights Tom Poe, that apparently all the people there, they couldn't get extras, so I guess Mark DeSalle talked to the general of the military there, and they'd have 5,000 soldiers. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know, but sometimes, I don't know, maybe with me, this is my fault. It's hard for me to pay attention to an audio commentary nowadays because if they're not talking about something I'm interested in, my mind wanders. That's why I really don't listen to much commentaries nowadays. Unless it's like back to the day re-listening to John Carpenter, Kurt Russell. Well, if John Carpenter or Kurt Russell did one for Steve from LA, even if it's say, hey, we release it online, that I listen to. But sometimes it's like, okay. Oh, if you hear, my family is visiting, so they're talking over there. But in case you hear that, the casserole's here. I don't like casserole. Fuck casserole. Never been a casserole guy. But yeah, the commentary with them is pretty. It's chatty enough, and again, Mike Leader, it's nice to have a guy who actually cares about the film. I mean, I guess to be fair, if they're with a director or someone, more than likely they care about the film. Sometimes if you have historians together, you don't know, it's 50-50. They may like the film, they may like, oh, it's cheesy or stupid or whatever. It's like, then why the fuck are you doing a commentary? If I'm a fan of the film, let me do the commentary. But yeah, Mike Leader's excitement is, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck, I had a word, contagious. His excitement is contagious, so I can appreciate that. Because I'm a big fan of the movie as well. And at least Mark DeSalle, he seemed alive, which is less I could say for the other commentary. The other commentary was dog shit. The one guy, James the historian, he tries, because he's actually given information about this, and he's trying. He's throwing information. He's trying to get these other two people to talk. The other two people, the other co-director, David Worth, and the actor Haskell Anderson. He's the guy who plays, I forgot his character's name. Okay, the guy in Kickboxer who becomes their ally, and he knows a little bit about firearms. Like the one black guy in the movie. If you remember Kickboxer, there's like one black guy in the movie, and that's him. He barely talks, and it's like this James guy's got to pull teeth out of him. Like, pull teeth. Like, I get it, like, if he wasn't part of the scene, maybe he didn't. But at the same time, it's like, James is like, he's like, can you say a little bit more? And David Worth, how old is he like 95 years old or something? Maybe he is. But he sounds like this, and like he's about ready to die any moment. And I can barely. And like the way it starts, a bit awkward. Where James like, well, how do you feel about this scene? It's like the first scene where Denzel Alexio is having this fight. Well, it seems like it was shot poorly. And it's like, why was it shot poorly? Did you shoot the scene? Did Mark DeSalle shoot the scene? Why was it shot poorly? Did you fuck up? How did you fuck up? Did you tell me more? Can you say something? Are you going to die? You're not going to have a heart attack during this, are you? It just... This was so... I could not finish his commentary. Because... David Worth couldn't say anything. If he did, I could barely hear what the fuck he was saying. Just he was talking like this. And then the other guy's like... Oh, yeah, that was... Yeah, I was there. I saw those two. Just like James asked about when Van Damme and Denzel Alexio are like sparring. That's the one where Denzel Alexio goes, you can't do anything with that tip-tap shit. And he's asking, well, were you there? Oh yeah, I was there. I was watching. Anything more? Like what the fuck? So that was a bit annoying. So yeah, that commentary is dog shit. If you want to give it, I mean, if you ever get this, you want to listen to it, be my guest, and you tell me how long you lasted. Just I lasted as much as I could. I could stand until I could not stand no more. But the other one is okay. When Mark DeSalle, that's the again of the two, that's the one to listen to. The interviews, it's 4 interviews. You got Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is very cool. Now these are not overly long interviews, but I mean it's still nice to have them on there. So Van Damme, he tells about the producer Mark DeSalle, a little bit about David Worf, who was a DP in Bloodsport, and that he was given a chance as a director. He talks about like the scene where the dog chases him. That was an idea he had because something happened to him similarly when he was 15 years old. And he went to this guy, and the guy like gave him the suit. He's like, I'm gonna have the dogs chase you. So something similar to that happened to him when he was 15 years old. He tells about how they were looking for a guy for Tom Poe, and he mentioned Michel Teasy, his buddy, and they're like, no, no, no. So Van Damme's like, well, I knew this assistant. I knew the assistant to Stan Winston because I worked on Predator, and we got him to do makeup on Tom Poe, on Michel Teasy, and then he said that he came out of a plane, went down, went up to Mark DeSalle, and pretty much scared Mark DeSalle. Is like, oh, he's the guy. Hey, it's Teasy, is it? So they see that and they go, oh wow, okay, we'll cast him that. And then the fight with Tom Poe, it took 2 days. He tells about the difference between movie fighting and real fighting, which it made sense. Like how movie in real life fighting, you would be like this, and your chin would be low, and you would keep close because you don't want people punching and kicking you. But in a movie, on the widescreen, you make the punches more broader, the face is more up, the kicks are more pronounced, which to me would be obvious, but to a lot of people they need to be explained. And you don't really see that nowadays because it's like it's gotta be realistic or it's no good at all. It's like, okay, I understand doing that some of the times, but it's still a movie. It's still escapism. It's still, fake, no matter what. So to show the big broad punches and kicks, it makes things more grandiose and more pronounced, and this might not be a realistic fight, but it makes it more memorable. It gives it a grand scale. It's why to this day people still think and talk about Kickboxer. It's still a classic in martial arts. Like Jackie Chan, when he does these movies, back to the day even, are people really doing all the fighting with all the choreography and doing all the comedy stuff? No. But it's that style, and you enjoy that style. Same with Van Damme. He made it his own. And he made his imprint in martial arts. Now, I do wish, I don't know if it was the person who, for example, I do wish he would talk about how was it working with the other actors. Like, how was it working with Dennis Chan? How was it working with Dennis Alexio? I mean, he does it briefly about how he's he was a champion. To be fair, he does. He was chosen because he had a title, and he was upset because he was in a wheelchair. So so he does talk a little bit about him. The thing with Van Damme, I hate to say this, He's not the best at interviews, even when I try to watch him online, because even after all this time, he still feels like he struggles with the language. And sometimes he'll like explain stuff where he's just repeating what we saw on the screen. And it's like sometimes like Arnold would do on commentaries. It was still nice to hear from him, and you could tell that he's proud of the film. You could tell that he likes the film. I like the end where he thanks the fans and stuff. That was very nice. Because, I mean, not everybody does that. So I thought he does seem grateful for that, which I appreciate. A little bit of humbleness. Which, I mean, if Steven Seagal did an interview, you think he would fucking do that? No. So, I mean, is it an interview that was amazing? No. I'm sure they got what they could out of Van Damme because, again, he's not the best in interviews. But it was still nice to hear from him. Nice to hear that he's proud of the film. Nice to hear at least some thoughts from him. And at least have him on there. So I can only assume that Van Damme... Well, Time Cop, I don't know what, because Peter Hyams was willing to talk about Time Cop, because from what I understand, I don't have the 4K of End of Days, but there's an interview with Peter Hyams at End of Days, and he talks about Time Cop. And I'm like, hell, why didn't you just take that portion and put it on the fucking Time Cop release then? But there's like no other interviews, nothing, no feature, nothing. I'm like, why? Obviously, Peter Hyams is willing to talk about the fucking Time Cop. He did during talking about End of Days. So, Shout Factory, Stream Factory, go fuck yourself. You made a shitty release. That's why I'm never buying that Time Cop 4K. It's a fucking ripoff. Fuck that shit. I like Time Cop, but fuck that shit. Hard Target. Van Damme doesn't like the film. That's the only reason I just think of why he didn't do any interviews. Because he got Lance Henriksen, Yancey Butler, I think even John Woo. Yeah, John Woo. I guarantee they asked Van Damme, and Van Damme did one for Lionheart, which he's proud of. Double Impact, which he's proud of. I think Bloodsport, but that's an overseas one. I don't have the Bloodsport one. That's overseas. But I know Van Damme did an interview on that one. I would like to get that one day, but it's too fucking expensive. I kept thinking one day they'll do a Bloodsport in the U.S. God forbid. It's only, considered one of the best martial arts films of all fucking time. But anyway. And he did one for Lionheart because he's proud of that film. And technically Universal Soldier on the old, when they put it on DVD and Dolph and Van Damme taught, this was, I mean, it's when it came out on a special edition DVD. So Van Damme talked about on that. I'm like, come on, Van Damme, talk about Hard Target. It's a good movie. What the fuck? What's the deal? Anyway. But it was nice to see Van Damme talk about it. So that was cool to see there. Michelle Teasy. Now, he mentions this film was shot, he played Tom Poe. He says this film was shot in 1987? Because it came out in 89. I'm like, 87? Well, I guess if it was shot in 87, then... I'm like, well, what the hell were they doing in 1988? I guess editing for the entire year? Because it came out in 89. So... Because then he also says, oh yeah, we got the makeup guy when he did it. But then he said, oh, it's from the guy that we worked with on Cyborg. And I'm like... Cyborg came out after... I know there's a time where the film was re-edited because, Van Damme had to take the film and re-edit the film because the original cut. But I mean, if they were shooting 87 and the test was done, what, does that mean Cyborg was shot in 87 or before that? I don't know. I was a bit confused with some of what he said time-wise. What is interesting is, number one, he mentioned that the first draft of the story had Tom Poe fighting Van Damme's character. I mean, he said Kurt, which is Van Damme's character. Unless he meant Eric, but he said, oh, Tom Poe and Kurt are already fighting, and there's a DQ. I said, well, that's kind of weird that you have it be a DQ. And then, amongst Tom Poe being pissed off about that, he punched, I don't know if like accidentally or something, their mom. Like Kurt and Sloane's mom, which ended up with her dying. And so he went over there to avenge his mom. I went, well, I mean, they definitely would have had more Rocky IV. Killed a loved one, get revenge. Kill a loved one, get revenge. So, I'm fine with what they have it now. But I mean, I had never heard that before, but that was interesting. And I'm sure I heard this before, but the original Tom Poe they wanted was Harold Diamond, the guy who was the stick in Rambo 3, who fought the Sticks. Fabio or someone might have told me that before, actually. But, yeah, the stiff fight at the beginning of Rambo 3. Stallone's opponent, that's the guy who they wanted for Tom Poe, but things didn't work out. Maybe he didn't do it to do Rambo 3. Because if they shot in 87 and like Rambo 3 came out 88, that would have been maybe around the time he was shooting, like 87 or so. So, yeah, maybe he didn't do that to do Rambo 3. But anyway. Mark DeSalle came up with the idea of Tom Poe kneeing the pillar. I probably would like to have heard a little bit more about him and Van Damme, like how they first met, how they first became friends, the stuff they did before Kickboxer came about, and maybe a bit more about the fight scenes. How was it working with Van Damme in the fight scenes? Like, to hear more about that. And maybe like the licking of the glass and whose idea that was, and obviously it wasn't real glass, but, or you know, saying the line. Because I think he's dubbed as well. His thoughts on, oh, obviously he wouldn't like it, but maybe a little bit more of that. But he does seem very grateful. I forgot they had a cameo in Kickboxer Vengeance. Just Van Damme played the trainer, but Michel Teasy is like behind bars in a prison, and like Van Damme walks by him. I forgot about it because I don't remember those fucking later Kickboxer films. To me, there's only one good Kickboxer film. It's the first one. That's it. Fuck all the rest. Kickboxer 2 sucks, in my opinion. 3 sucks. 4 sucks. 5 sucks. Vengeance sucks. What the fuck the other one? Aggression, Annihilate. What the fuck it is sucks. There's only one Kickboxer, and it's this movie. Okay? In my opinion. Fuck all the rest. But he does seem very grateful. He seems like a nice guy. So that was, you know, nice little interview. Then you have Dennis Chan, who plays Van Damme's trainer. He tells about how he got the film. He knew this guy named Teddy Chan, which had him go up to meet, read for the part. Came back a few times. Met Van Damme. He talks about how David Worth was a very quiet guy, gentleman of a guy. He talks about Van Damme, he's very intense, very dedicated. And he tells about an incident which is pretty much corroborated by the DP, where there's a scene where, I guess during the big fight at the end, that the extras were not doing what they were supposed to, and Van Damme, and this is more so in the DP interview, how they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, and then Van Damme's yelling at them and going, Stallone was right about you. That's what the DP says. He said, Stallone was right about you. Which makes you wonder, what was that about? See, that makes me think that maybe would it be Rambo 2, I guess? The idea somehow, Van Damme had met and talked with Stallone, and maybe Stallone, I guess maybe Rambo 2 or something. I guess he talked about the extras there. I don't know. I mean, it definitely makes you think. And Dennis Chan was like, well, he's got a lot of pressure on him, and the first and only conversation he had with Van Damme was Van Damme under pressure, getting mad, angry, and then walked to his trailer, and him and Dennis Chan talked. And about how Van Damme talked about how he has this ambition, and what he wants to do with his life, what he wants to do with his career, what he wants to do with, and Dennis Chan explaining this is how the people are, this is how they work, their conditions, how much they're getting paid. And yeah, that was the first and only conversation they had. Thought that was interesting. But I mean, he seemed nice about Van Damme. And while, yeah, I mean, you don't yell at the extras because then you just create the idea that you're an asshole. At the same time, there's the conditions of a lot of pressure. The movies don't be on your shoulders. And this is a guy that you could tell he wanted to make it. He wanted to do anything he could to make it. I mean, going up to a Golden Globus and look, I could do this, the splits, I could do this, let me have Bloodsport. He wanted his career to keep going. He wanted his career to flourish as much as possible. Which makes it that much more annoying that when he got into the drugs and that didn't help with his bipolar disorder, that he just took a shit on it. Like Street Fighter, he I think cheated on his wife or girlfriend with fucked Cammy, Kylie Minogue. You're doing drugs. I don't think he remembers most of Street Fighter. I don't blame him because I wouldn't want to remember that movie either. And then later on, like Knockoff, if I understand, he doesn't remember a damn thing about that movie. And it's just, man. Then I hear the stories about when he's on hard target and he's on his phone all the time. I'm like, dude, come on, where? But that also makes it prevalent in GCVD when he breaks down. And it's like, I think that's why that is a real moment. That is like, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And you can tell it was from the heart. Because you get these stories about how intense and dedicated he is. And then got lost in the fame, the drugs, all that stuff. And, a tale as old as time. And, his head eventually got back on his shoulders. He made some pretty good direct-to-video films, unlike Seagal. And I think nowadays he seems more well-liked than Seagal. He's definitely more well-liked than Seagal. He's still fucked up at times and in the past and stuff. He's far from perfect, but at least he does seem like he's been humbled a bit. And, better late than never, but it's like, man, I wish you had known this sooner, dude. I wish you had fucking known this sooner, man. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting anecdote that he talked about. First and only conversation with Van Damme. He does talk a little bit about the sequel. Mainly just he got a call and Mark DeSalle yelled at him because he wanted to raise. And it's like, well, I got to travel thousands of miles to be in the picture. That's a sequel to the film that you made and made a lot of money. Okay, just this once. Granted, this isn't about the sequels, but it would have been nice to hear about his thought. Kickboxer 2, it would have been nice to hear more of that. How was it working with Sasha Mitchell compared to Van Damme? Like, if you bring it up, let it flourish a little bit more. Why not? I don't see a fucking Kickboxer 2 special edition coming out anytime soon. Whether by Lionsgate or whatever, I don't see that. Maybe it will, but, I don't fucking see it anytime soon. Again, I always wish these things were a bit longer. It felt a bit short, but again, nice to hear from him. And then the DP, John Cranhouse. Usually, I'm not sure about DP, interviews, because I've seen Dean Cundy do interviews, and I find him a rather boring subject. Like, his interviews are really boring. But this is actually interesting. That he shot the Werewolf TV series, and then he was shooting Alaska aerial stuff, and then got the call for this. That's where he says Mark DeSalle told him, "Hey, I'm directing this as well, but don't tell David," which is an interesting anecdote. How he used filters in the Stone City to make the red bricks pop up in color. How when the training and Dennis Chan has these things and it looks like it's been heated up at the end. They were just plexiglass and light bulbs. And again, he talks about the scene where Van Damme is insulting the extras. But he was like, hey, Van Damme was under a lot of pressure, to be fair. But they wanted to get back in their seats. And he said Stallone was right about you, which I didn't really know what he meant. I'm like, yeah, that is interesting. Again, that's why I appreciate it. There was some interesting bits he brought to this. I also like the story that he did work with Van Damme later. I guess Van Damme overseas somewhere did commercials for chocolate, which I never saw these commercials. I'd have to look for them if they're online. And he tells a funny story about how Van Damme had to eat the chocolates, and then Van Damme later went up to him and was like, I think these things are giving me the shakes. But I'm like, well, what happened afterward? I'm thinking, like, well, what happened afterward? Did he puke or something? But that's where the story ended. So that was actually a pretty decent interview. Better than I thought, so I did like that. Let me see. I think Dennis Alexio is still alive. Yeah, it seems like it. So, sad that he didn't... I'm guessing they asked, and he's, sad we didn't get to hear from Dennis Alexio. I would like to have heard from him. Especially... And maybe this is on the commentaries. If so, I missed it. I apologize. It's never explained why he was dubbed. Why was he dubbed? But I guess, the interviews were cool. There's 4 of them. Wish they were longer, sure. It's funny, the lady, the love interest, she's not interviewed here, but that she did an interview on YouTube, you can find. I'm like, so why would she do an interview on YouTube, but not on here? I don't know. That's a bit strange. I probably would have preferred a Mark DeSalle and a David Worth sit-down interview compared to a commentary, but... Same with Hestel Anderson. Like, you have him for the commentary. I would have preferred him doing a sit-down interview. Because I think maybe that could have come off better. And so in retrospect, I wish they would have just had him for sit-down interviews. Also, the composer. Would have been nice to hear from the composer. Because the score is fantastic. The score is one of the stars of the movie, in my opinion. So, again... I don't know if they asked him, he said no or something, but the composer, I would like to have heard from him. Because, he did Bloodsport, Kickboxer, those are great scores. And I think later on he became like a teacher, because he couldn't find much work, sadly. Then he did, I think that shitty, what was that shitty Viking Samurai thing? It's like a rip-off of Bloodsport. You know what's funny? I reviewed it, I forgot what the fuck it was called. This YouTuber Viking Samurai's in it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not gonna look it up. The fact I didn't remember it shows how shitty it was. Fuck that. The movie sucked. What the fuck movie I can't remember. It doesn't deserve to be remembered. At least, yeah, I forget names. I'll look it up because it deserves to be remembered. That movie doesn't deserve to be remembered. Fuck that movie. Whatever the fuck it was. Someone will put it down in the comments. I'm like, yep, that's the movie, and it still sucks. But the last thing I'll talk about is the international cut, which is the third disc. Because from what I understand, when it came out into the U.S., I guess they dubbed Tom Pope. I mean, he only had like one or so lines, so it's like whatever. And they dubbed Dennis Alexio's voice. So he sounds a bit higher pitched. Some would say like a soap opera. In the international cut, the picture quality isn't great. Just everything looks faded. Colors, it looks faded. So they didn't clean it up at all. So visually, I'm like, I don't want to look at this. It looks like shit. I mean, all the colors are faded. Honestly, wasn't that impressed by the international cut. I mean, it's cool to have it's cool to have it there. I'm glad they did that for completion's sake. Even people like me, it was cool to see once. It was interesting to see once as a fan. Number one, to hear Dennis Alexio's voice, actual voice for the entire film, that was cool to hear. Nostalgic-wise, I prefer the dubbed voice, honestly. I know, it sounds weird. But I saw Kickboxer so many times, I lost count. I'm nostalgic to that voice now. And it just makes the character seem a bit more warmer and a bit more friendlier. That tic-tac shit, just something about the higher pitch, it just makes it seem like a warmer, more likable character. And that sounds stupid, I know, but Dennis Alexio's character didn't come off nearly as likable in the international cut than he did in the theatrical cut, the dub voice. Like, the dub voice for me made him, again, a bit more of a warmer character that I liked more. So, again, I prefer the dub voice. I'm the weird guy in the room. I don't give a fuck. So, it was cool to hear once. I never go back to listen to it again. Also, there's like a 3-4 minute difference. The only scene I remember being added, there may have been more, but the only one I remember is another hospital scene where Dennis Alexio's character breaks down and says, "My legs are like toothpicks." And he's talking about this guy next to him. And honestly, Dennis Alexio, with his actual voice, is kind of a shitty actor. At least, he's trying to go emotional. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I'm like, I could see why this was cut out. Because I honestly feel audiences would have laughed at this scene because he wasn't that great performance-wise, Dennis Alexio. That's the way I looked at it. I think that's why other people looked at it and they cut it out. And, it's not... I never need to see that scene again. Plus, the international cut cuts violence out. In the last fight, you don't see Tom Poe lit the glass, and make his tongue bleed. Tom Poe does these slashes to like Van Damme's knee, legs, and his chest. That's cut out. And when Van Damme finishes off Tom Poe, he's outside of the ring, he does these knees, or these elbows, and he raises his foot. That's cut out. And you could tell. It's like he punches, then it cuts to Haskell and Hastiel Anderson cheering, and then Van Damme's in a different pose with his foot up. And it's like, wait a minute, he was just punching. It cuts to him, now it cuts to Van Damme's foot being up like this. I'm like, yeah, because you cut like 10, 15 seconds of action. And I'm sorry, if you're an action film and you cut an action out, you fucked up. You fucked up. So, I would never watch this international cut ever again. You cut out, it cuts violence out, which was stupid. Dennis Alexio's voice, I actually prefer the dub version. And the hospital scene, I remember, there might have been other scenes, but that's the only one I remember. It was over dramatic. He's trying, but he's not an actor. You know? So, and I like Dennis Alexio in this theatrical version. He does what he's supposed to do. And I like him just fine. So, honestly, international cut could go fuck itself. I will never watch this shitty international cut ever again. But again, for preservation's sake, glad it's there. That's cool. Maybe once in a while I'll pop it in to remember why I don't watch it. Then I don't watch it yet again. So, overall, if you like the film, this is a cool release. Nice aesthetic, good picture quality. Did some nice interviews with Van Damme, Tom Poe himself, Dennis Chan, Again, I wish the two directors just had separate sit-down interviews instead of commentaries. Same with Hastiel Anderson. I wish he just did a sit-down interview. And yeah, the others do interviews. Paul Herzog, the composer, would be nice to hear from him. Van Damme and the interviews, I wouldn't mind if they were a little bit longer. Oh, it's cool. You got the trailer, you got the TV spot, you got still gallery. Nice little trinkets there. International cut's an interesting motif to have. Just not many do that. It wasn't worth the look, honestly, but that's just me. You may feel differently. And nice presentation. So, yeah, nice little bit of Kickboxer. I like how the title breaks too. That's cool and flies off. That's cool. So, Concerned Forever, this had like a bare bones crappy DVD and a bare bones Blu-ray. To have something like this, again, even that alone just looks really cool. It deserves it. Now, can we get Bloodsport in the fucking US? Can Time Cop get a good release? Probably not, but thanks for watching. I know it's a bit long, but hey, I want to go in depth for it. Thanks once again, Efree. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.